My name is Megan, and I am a survivor of anorexia nervosa. The moment I realized I was bigger than other girls was at recess in 5th grade. I suddenly became hyper aware of everything I was supposed to be as a female. Thin and pretty and gentle and graceful and 1,000 other impossible things that weren't typically character traits I claimed in the outside world or even behind closed doors. My perception of self quickly and violently transformed from self-awareness to self-hatred. I began to despise not only the shape of my body, but the very fact that I had a body. I felt like an imposter each day I stepped out in the world, like I was unable to portray an accurate representation of who I was stuck inside this body. Being in this world, surrounded by the voices and pressures to be everything I wasn't and would never be, was a dangerous and vulnerable place. So I found a place where the shoulds and supposed tos seemed a little more manageable. I couldn't control the color of my skin or the way I laughed, but I thought that maybe I could control the number that appeared on the scale. Anorexia is the world I created for myself to live in, the place that made me feel safe from the noise of the real world. Anorexia is the place I would go to try to find my worth, and simultaneously the place that destroyed any worth I had ever claimed. Anorexia was my safe, deadly hiding place. I was in this hiding place for 1 year. Most of my memories from this year are blurry. My daily experiences were so painful and so traumatic that my brain has blocked them from my memory through a process called dissociation. But there are a few key moments and memories that are pivotal in either my destruction or my recovery that I remember with great detail and has helped framed my memories of this year. I didn't plan on developing an eating disorder. I didn't even know what anorexia was. All I knew was that I wanted to be thinner, and innocently I started to eat just a little bit less at each meal. After a few weeks, I saw 1 pound come off, and then 2, and I was addicted. Before I truly understood the harsh reality and significant consequences of an eating disorder, restricting and starving and exercising and lying began to consume every part of me. Anorexia became my biggest and most precious secret. Being an imperfect human in this world with no tolerance for imperfection felt like a sick game I was destined to lose. So I created my own game where I felt I had a chance of winning, lying to every person I loved and seeing how long I can string them along, convincing them that I was okay. I watched one by one as every single close relationship I had crumbled. No one knew why I was suddenly so distant, why I was next to them one day and thousands of miles away the next. There were a few catalysts that played a huge role in my addiction and disease. Instagram was one of those. I created an Instagram as a platform to post about my eating disorder. Through this eating disorder community, I met so many people. Those people would cheer me on when I had a good day and scold me when I caved into my hunger. Through this account, I would post about my current weights, goal weights, what I ate that day. And every account and every image I came across on that Instagram fed me something. An image, a broken promise, a false sense of happiness, a poison, a toxic lie. This message came in many different forms, but the lesson was always the same. I am not good enough. And I believed it. I believed it through every bone of my body. I believed it so deeply that I was willing to inflict pain upon my body and my mind to try to prove to anyone watching that I was worth something. The voice of Anna inside my head was so powerful that I no longer had control over my actions. It felt as though there were 2 Megans constantly fighting to surface, one who wanted to be 85 pounds and the other who just wanted to not have to run past the mirror after her shower. At some points, my hunger pain would be so intense that I couldn't will my body to move or function the way I needed it to. I was constantly lightheaded. I passed out everywhere. My hair was thinning and falling out, while at the same time, a thin layer of hair began to grow over my entire body. At some points, my body would reject any food that I tried to eat. I would choke on my food and be unable to physically swallow. My life was the definition of suffering. No weight was ever low enough, no lie was ever convincing enough, no meal was ever satisfying enough. It felt impossible to escape the tight grasp of my eating disorder. I was miserable, unhappy, filled with self-hatred, and saw absolutely no way out. I was numb in every sense of the word. I felt no joy, no content, no happiness, and no peace. I wanted to feel so badly, like not the uncomfortable, lonely, hard emotions, but just the good ones. But because I numbed the bad ones, I no longer had the capacity to feel the good ones. My life was a constant cycle of running and numbing and hiding. My eating disorder had spiraled too far, and I was no longer in control of my pain, and that terrified me because a big part of why it started was the factor of control. I self-harmed multiple times in an attempt to feel in control of my pain. I slit my wrists and punched my ribs and thighs until I was black and blue. I hated my body. I hated having a body. It held me back from what I wanted to do, and it held me back from what I wanted to be. It was obvious to me that I was deteriorating, but no one else could see beyond the mask I had painted so delicately. I made sure not to let anyone else see me. Taking off my mask meant being naked, vulnerable, and exposed. Sharing my secrets meant leaving my hiding place and revealing my humanity. Once I left my safe hiding place, I knew that there would be no turning back. I knew there would no longer be a home for me there. And the unknown of recovery seemed far worse than the misery I became comfortable with through my anorexia. The night I decided I could no longer live this way is a very vivid memory for me. I was on my bedroom floor, sobbing and shaking uncontrollably for what felt like hours. My usual calming techniques were not working, and I was struggling to breathe. My mom came into my room and was trying desperately to understand what was wrong. I had a really important choice to make. I could tell her the truth and start my road to recovery, or I could lie and stay in my hiding place. It's not that I didn't want to tell her the truth. I wanted so badly to rip off my mask and allow another human to see me, but the problem was I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I had kept this huge secret for so long that it felt dirty and painful coming out of my mouth. So I lied. I told her that I was upset over something that my sister had done. I remember sitting in my room, listening to my sister get in trouble for something that she didn't do. And it was in that seemingly simple moment that I started to understand. Like, the dense fog that I had been existing in and day out started to clear. I realized that my eating disorder was not just affecting me. It was hurting everyone and everything I loved so deeply. I suddenly realized that if I continued down this path I was headed, I would die. I suddenly understood that I had no choice but to climb out of this deep hole I had carved for myself and show up in the world. But I didn't know how to. So I knew that the only thing I could do, since I couldn't show up for anyone else, was to show up for myself. It was painful and uncomfortable and blinding and terrifying, but I showed up. I stopped running and simply allowed myself to sit. I sat and looked at my naked body in the mirror every night and resisted the urge to run. I didn't compliment it. I didn't look for the good because I couldn't. I didn't see that yet. I simply allowed myself and my body to exist. I sat at the dinner table each night, anxious and terrified, but I still sat there learning about myself and my mind. I sat in my pain, my insecurities, my anxieties, my fears, and my self-hatred when all I wanted to do was run as far away as my legs could carry me. I learned that by staring my self-hatred in the eyes, embracing it, leaning into it, getting curious about it, and allow any and all emotions to run their course, it went away. But only after I held the non-judgmental space for it. Only after I allowed it to exist without numbing or running or hiding. I simply just had to allow it to exist. My healing was a long process. A healed body does not equal a recovered mind. I had to retrain my brain and unlearn the rules I had allowed to become my personal doctrine. I had to change my definition of beauty. Beauty to me is no longer a physical thing. Beauty is the strength inside of you. Beauty is found inside your deepest pain, in your most intense suffering, in your moments of courage, vulnerability, and bravery. Beauty is showing up exactly as you are. I had to teach myself that I don't have to earn my food. Food is not a moral issue. I am not a bad person for eating a donut, and I am not a good person for eating a salad. I have embraced myself, I've embraced intuitive eating, and surrounded myself with people who dismantle diet culture and spread body positivity. I've learned to listen to my body. I honor my hunger cues, full cues, and whether I need a salad or a donut. I had to learn that I am a sum total of my own thoughts. I am where I am because that's exactly where I want to be, whether I admit it or not. We are not a composite of everything that has ever happened to us in the world. Rather, what happens to us is a direct result of the things we habitually think and habitually do. So if I habitually entertain negative thoughts about myself, I am going to self-destruct and relapse. I had to learn to control my mind and not allow space for self-destructive thoughts and feelings. When those feelings come, as they surely always will, I acknowledge them and allow them to move on without creating a space for them. My struggle was real and will continue to be real. But so is my bravery. Recovery is not and never will be linear. Self-love is a journey, not a destination. I have really good days and weeks and months, and I have really bad ones too. I have low moments where a picture is taken and my face or my body seems unrecognizable. Those feelings of inadequacy and self-hatred revisit me often, but the difference is today I let them pass through me. I am able to recognize that the knowledge I've gained and the growth I've experienced is infinitely more important than the pounds and curves. So I invite myself to remember that even with what the world sees as extra weight, I actually feel more light than ever. My pants have never been bigger and my life has never been fuller. To anyone struggling with an eating disorder, you don't have to be a certain weight to suffer from an eating disorders. Eating disorders don't have a look. Your eating disorder will look different than mine. You can be any shape or size, fat or thin, and anywhere in between, any race, any gender, any skin color. Eating disorders do not discriminate. You are worthy of receiving treatment for an eating disorder, no matter the severity, no matter your body size. Seeking help when you are struggling is a sign of strength, not of weakness. Recovery takes a lot of work, but it's worth it. Recovery is not and never will be a linear process. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. It ebbs and it flows. Sometimes, just when I thought things were going really well, it would all of a sudden turn really bad. But even with the relapses, committing to recovery is worth it. Maybe part of you is scared or unsure if you even want to let go of your eating disorder. It feels so safe. The outside world is so scary. This is normal. However, you've been doing the same things for so long and continuing to have the same results. So what if you try something new? If you find that you hate your life in recovery, you can always go back to your eating disorder. But however, once recovered, I don't think you will want to. I don't want to. I know it seems like there's absolutely no way out of this darkness, like you've passed the threshold of any hope you have ever clung to. I've been there. You are not alone. Eating disorders are present all around us. The problem is that we're all in our little hiding places that we can't find each other. But there is no shame in talking about your eating disorder. There is no shame in admitting you have struggled or are struggling. You deserve a life that is free from constant thoughts about food and your body. Take the first step to reach out for help. It will be worth it. I will be with you every step of the way.